Well, I'm going to do a little bit of follow-up on my Fluke 343A DC Voltage Calibrator. Now, I did a couple of videos on this thing a few years ago when I first got it. I fully recapped it at the time because all the capacitors were bad. Well, majority of them bad. A few which are a little bit iffy, but what I've noticed recently is when I've been doing high voltages on this thing, above about 600 volts or so, it's been erratic. It's not been stable. Now, I've only just turned these things on, so it's all warming up. I shouldn't really do calibration stuff for, a few hours, really. I only turned these on a few minutes ago, so nowhere near stable and that sort of stuff, which is, why these levels are completely wrong right now. This is Datron, which I repaired as well previously. Don't worry about the readings, obviously, because it's all got to settle down and it's not perfect. So what I'm going to do is go to high voltage range, so let's do 100 volts. Or 100 volt range, doing 10 volts, and that's there. Now I did a 100 volt range, which is doing 100 volts, as you can see. That's fine. Now, something this has always had, which I've never actually got around to fixing. If I do 300 volts, it does 326 or so, it just fluctuates around a little bit. It's not right. Or if I basically do anything above, I think it's up to 350 or something like that, I think it will play up at. Yeah, 350 is okay-ish. I think 360 is when it comes right. There we go, 360 is okay. So anything above 360 is okay. But if I do 300 this way, it works. So I don't think it's a component failure as such. I think it's more likely a switch problem. Anyway, that's an issue on the side of this. So if I do 500 volts, that's fine. 700. There you go. See that instability there? See it jumping around? That is not right. 800. Doing the same thing, jumping around quite a bit. I'll take the input filter off. It's a little bit less obvious to see. 900. Jump around a little bit again, you can't really see it that much. And here you go, 1000. And it looks pretty much normal there, but I'd say did a filter and it shows up as jumping around. Sometimes. Doesn't always do it. See, right now it looks fine. So I'm actually thinking it's potentially a problem with the switch. So right now it's looking fairly stable there. Back to 800 again. It's looking okay. 700, but before you saw it jumping around. That does make me think it is a switch problem because it's not consistent. There you go, there's 600 jumping around. I'm going to basically pull it apart, clean the switches, see if that fixes it. So let's get one screw out, let's get the other one out. So the switches are inside this cover here. There's also where the adjustments are for the calibration. Well, most of the adjustments, as you can see from that plate. So all the switches are mounted in here. And this is, I think it's a fairly old version. It's got these plastic switches in here. They're not like a phenolic, they're not a phenolic or anything like that. These are more like acrylic, perhaps plexiglass, something like that. I'm not quite sure exactly what they are. The actual standoffs in here, I had problems with the standoffs on this switch here, that one, being broken. And I think someone's had an issue with this one before as well. It's been soldered together. So things like that. Actually, I'm going to pull the power out. If I turned it off, I'm going to pull the power out as well, just in case I touch something I shouldn't. It's always a good thing. A few of these posts which are in here have broken in the past. So one I actually put epoxy on it to fix it, and that worked okay. It's been okay since then. But this is a switch I'm suspicious about. I mean, it could be this one. It could be this switch, but it could be this one. So what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of deoxit in here and just see if it comes right. It may be all it needs. If not, it could be bad diodes, possibly leaky transistors. So I've already bought some new diodes. So if it is something more than just the switches, where it could be diode breakdown, because I do know the voltage goes through these diodes, then I might have to replace those diodes as well. But I just want to do the simple thing first, do the switches, give these a clean, and see if that's all it needs. So this is what I'm going to be using, D5. I mean, I know there are other ones you can get, but this is what I've got. I think you can get something like gold contact ones, especially meant for gold contacts. These are all gold as well, gold plated. This may not be the best choice, but this is what I have. It's also extremely expensive. So we'll give it a clean. We'll give them a spray on these switches like this. And it goes absolutely everywhere, of course. But I'm going to do all the switches in one go. Both sides, all the contacts, try and get all of them. These ones are phenolic resin at the back here. Actually, that's loose. That plate's moving around. The whole assembly is loose. I'll show you that in a minute. Anyway, let's give it a clean. I'll come back, maybe that's what's wrong. Doubt it, but you never know. So this one here has been repaired previously by someone. It's been soldered. I'll get you closer in a minute and show you. It might not even be the switch, it might be this switch. It could be the way it does the ranges. It could, I think the switch is another one as well. It might be that one, but yeah. Who knows? Maybe something completely unrelated to these switches. Could be something completely different. Could be this switch, which I will also going to clean. This whole shaft is loose. So someone's repaired that in the past. Anyway, you get the idea. Right, so this is the switch here. Say this is the bit that's been soldered by someone, but obviously the standoff's been broken. They've soldered some shafts on, and this bolt here, which goes right through, is loose, and the one on the other side is also loose. And also the nut that holds the shaft onto this PCB here was also loose. So a few things wrong there, and I don't think you can see just down there. There's a post there which I epoxied previously because that was all shattered, and that's completely floating around. So I've epoxied that one to fix that. And that sorted that one out. The other one seemed to be okay. This is for the switch itself down here for the main power switch. I've done those, so we'll set it back up again, see if it's changed anything just by doing that. If not, I'll clean the next switch. In fact, I should probably just clean all of them, but I just want to do one little bit at a time. Now I've got power plugged in, let's turn it on. See what happens. So, there's 1 volt. 1 volt jumping around. That's interesting. It's just sitting really high. Anyway, let's go auto range on there. Right, okay, let's do that range, 100 volts. It's looking okay. 200. So this has changed. So maybe those switch contacts were a little bit dodgy and it's affecting things. So the 300 volt range is still playing up. 400, sitting low. 500, sitting low. Just want to see if any of these start jumping around. 600 still jumping around. Look at that. I can even see the needle bouncing slightly just over here. So that hasn't fixed it by the looks of it. So, yeah, so I don't completely trust this whole switch assembly here. I'm just not confident that's okay. Because that's the only thing that's just different. This is basically this switch assembly and the dividing networks. So now I've got this error on 1 volt. It's actually got worse. Imagine that. Dodgy switches most likely. So it's now the following day. I've been playing with this a little bit. What I did after I did the deoxit, as you saw, is very I don't know, drifty. After that, it was quite bad. So I've then flushed it with IPA across all the switches. So the switches are now been cleaned with IPA as well, and now it's back to normal as it should be. So that's all fine. Now I'm still getting an issue with the 600 volt range having a floating drifty voltage. And what I did then is I replaced all the capacitors over here, which I hadn't replaced. There's 4 left, which I hadn't done. Replaced all those now. Now what I might do a bit strangely, these are Sprague caps, 15 microfarad, 6 volt. And I don't have any 15 microfarads, so I use 22s. And that seemed to be fine, but the 600 volt range seems to be alright now. In fact, I'll just show you, this is going to show you negative voltage because I'm reversed, so let's do 200 volt range is still bad, as you can see. But the other ones are basically okay. Not floating around anymore. You can't really see it too much on this one anyway, but from what I was testing before, my Siglent multimeter is looking like it's stable and fine again now. But as you can see, the 300 volt range is still bad. So this is what I'm just trying to track down next. I'd like to get this problem solved. I'm now going through the service manual. I mentioned about checking against the collector of Q41 just back here. Reference to the, as you can't quite see, the output terminal here is common. So it's supposed to be between 10 and 13 volts or something on here as you go through. Now it's on 0 volt range, so 100 volts. It's supposed to be on the 10 volt range, but I was checking across all of them. Alright, got to be careful not to touch those heat sinks because they're live. 10.9, that's fine. 11.9, that one suddenly jumps up a lot, which is a bit strange. Next one is back down to 11, 10.9, 11, 11, 11. So these all look exactly the same, pretty much, apart from the 300 volt range, where it shifts to 11.9 volts, which is odd. So, okay, let's trace back a bit further from that. I'll shift it over so you can see the meter instead of having my arm in the way. So let's just shove this on here. So this is on the anode of CR50, which is part of the control circuitry for these main regulators here. So I'm getting 1.82 volts there. This is on 200 volts. Right, so if I just go through at 0 to 100, 200, 300, negative voltage, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900 and 1000. You can see they're basically all very similar voltages. It does step up as it goes through the levels depending on which tappings it's using on the transformer. But the one which is completely different is a 300 volt range. So this is obviously either a correction voltage or some kind of fault. I'm guessing it's a correction voltage. So I need to trace back from here. So we go back a little bit further. I'm now testing at TP8, which is the base of one of the transistors. I can't remember what the transistor number is now. Is it Q33? Might be that one. It's nearby. Or Q32, one of them. So it's 100 volts, 200 volts, 300 volts. Negative again. Okay, so it's going back that fast. It's coming back from the main source. So why is that dropping off? Is it sensing incorrectly? Maybe it's a divider problem. Maybe it's a switch problem. So what I'm going to do now is just measure here at R17 and R171, which is normally inside this covered section. This is return from the sensing strings and stuff like that. So I have to go through the switches and go to these precision resistors. It comes up over here, which then goes all to the chopper amp and everything like that. It's like the input feed for that. So this is where it senses what the voltage is. This is the one underneath that plastic cover, and that is the input from the sensing string. So let's stick a probe on there. I'm currently set at 200 volts. Let's get 192. Go to 100, 198. So it's like 2 volts down, 7 volts down. So that's 300 volts. 321. Okay, so that's definitely wrong. 400 volts, that's down a bit. 25 volts down. 500 volts, 600, and so on. That's 900, that's 1000. This is relative to negative output terminal. So this voltage here is wrong. And that's what's coming back from the divider network. So the question is, okay, if I do 300 volts on there, exactly like that, and we'll measure on that point again. So we're getting 320 or thereabouts. If I go to 200 volts with 10 on the next scale, it should give me 300 volts. That's what we should be getting. So it is capable of getting the correct voltage and working. The question is, why is that 300 volt range not working? So if I go to 300 again, and I do 310, 320, 330, because it ignores all those, 340, so it starts to get under control, 350, 360, and then this is where it's working, and it's in this range here. Right, these ones are working. About 350 or so it works. Below that it doesn't. So what's going on? So I was looking around and I just noticed this resistor over here, which is R95. It's all white and I just touched it and it just fell apart. So it's burnt out. Now that is in series of CR3, which is part of the transformer system for the sync supply. So this could be part of the problem I've been having with that 300 volt rail. So I'm going to replace this resistor obviously and check this diode and see what's going on. There could be some other problems that are in the area. That would only overload if this diode's probably shorted out. We'll see what happens. I'll test these diodes out now. That doesn't look right. Same both directions. That appears to be a short. Okay, let's check the next one. That looks pretty normal. Yeah, that over there is okay. So CR3 is indeed blown. So I need to replace that. Right, so as well as CR3, it looks like CR26 may also be bad. I've checked all the ones down this side at least. And CR26 looks like it's got a leakage in both directions of about the same amount. See, it's about 0.1 effectively. And I'll swap the probes around. It's about the same. So that also looks suspicious. I've checked these other ones. I haven't checked this one over here. See what this one's like. That looks fine. I think I'll go around and check all the diodes, and looks like I've got 2 bad ones potentially. These aren't particularly special diodes. I think this particular one, CR3, let's say 1 amp 600 volt. That's an equivalent to what, a 1N4006 or something, is it equivalent? I've got some other diodes I can use, so that's not an issue at all. But I'm going to go around and check all the diodes in here. If I find anything else, I'll record it. Well, that didn't take long. CR30 is also showing leakage in both directions. It could be there's something around it, some other componentry, you never quite know. But it's getting about the same, 0.045. So that's wrong, and it's giving the same both directions. There could be some other componentry around there. I was going to do one direction, it's usually good enough. Especially if I do the correct direction. That's fine. Yeah, CR30 looks dodgy. So we've got CR3, CR26, CR30 in this section, and I'll have to check over here. Yeah. So I think I just found another one over here. CR69 is looking a bit interesting. Do you see that, can you? It's showing the same both directions. Let's check this one over here. That looks alright. 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 I will check the other ones over here. So it looks like CR69 is also suspicious. Okay, so this CR69, that's okay. I just checked the circuit diagram, and it has a 56 ohm resistor in parallel with it. And I just measured the resistance, and it's 56 ohms. So that CR69 is okay. So that board was alright. So I just need to come back and check the ones over here, check those in the diagrams, see how those sit. Right, so CR30, that's probably okay as well, because that's across a relay coil. So that would be why I'm getting that leakage in both directions there. That explains that one. So now I need to only check CR26 to see what the story is with that one. Right, so CR26 is the output from the transformer in parallel with a second diode, so it's like a 2 diode bridge, not a 4-pin rectifier. Right, so let's pull these 2 diodes out, and CR26 actually measured okay out of circuit, so that's interesting. And CR3 is definitely a short, so I can show you that. Yep. Doesn't matter what I do, same reading both directions. And this one's measuring okay. I'm half tempted to put it back in again, but I do have some 1.5 amp diodes here. So these are 1000 volt 1.5 amp diodes. Is an upgrade. I purchased these because these equivalent parts to use somewhere else in the unit. So I've got a bunch of those I could use. It doesn't require that kind of level, but I could put this one back in again. That does actually seem alright. Well, that one, whichever one it was. Actually, my mistake. I just measured CR27. It's giving that reading. Maybe it is a mistake I just made. I'm not sure. Just curious. I'm going to put that CR27 as well, because I'm just suspicious about that one. Sorry about the noise. I had to turn the air conditioning on. It's just way too hot. This might be the one that's blown, because they're back to back across the transformer coil, or the transformer winding. So it could actually be this one which is blown, not the other one. Oh, no, that seems fine as well out of circuit. This one just pulled out, and that's looking absolutely fine. So I think that's just a false reading from being in circuit still. Let's make sure I get the right ones, and I'll put them back in again. So that's those 2 there, I think. Oh, recheck. Might have looked at that too quickly. No, that's fine. So this one I need to replace this one here. Those 2 are okay. They can go back in. So CR26, CR27 are fine. It's just the in-circuit readings are bad. Well, let's get this soldered in. So I've replaced the other 2, we'll put them back in place rather. And just tacked them in at one end. So we get this soldered in. You see this is the bridge. Transformer windings coming in here and joining back together having those diodes. Unfortunately, this has got the conformal coating, and that tends to be a bit of a problem because it's ends up burning around the edges. Ooh, doesn't look very nice. Right. So this diode body is far smaller than the one I just replaced it with, but it's got a higher rating and current. So I'll space it off the circuit board a little bit as well, just so if it does get warm, it doesn't end up burning the board. Shouldn't be an issue anyway. The other one didn't seem to do it, so we'll see how it goes. Oh, I need to replace that resistor yet. Mustn't forget to do that. Look, a form of coating problem, as I expected. I want to try and get as much rubbish off here as I can. Don't want leakage and stuff, but shouldn't really matter in this particular area. But there's other parts of the board we have to be careful about getting leakage across them. So the original resistor was spaced off the board, so what I'm going to do, it's only a 1/4 watt resistor as well. Also that means they're expecting it to get hot because it was spaced away. So I'm going to upgrade to this watt. This is a, I don't know, 1/2 watt resistor I think. Be 1/2 watt. I'll also space this off the board. Now just here you can see I've got the diode spaced off the board just a little bit, just in case it matters. So yeah, I'll drop this in and we'll do some power up tests and see if it gets hot. Right, I've got the thermal camera out, so let's plug this thing in. Now you can ignore the little hot spot just there, that's nothing, it's probably just some residual heat from the soldering where things are still cooling down, or maybe perhaps some metal reflections and stuff like that. I'm too close really for the camera. Anyway, we'll see what the alignment's like on this. It doesn't really matter too much, but let's see if there's a hot spot. Turn power on. You can see there's little bits warming up. So it's about 40 degrees, something over there. So the hottest thing is 40 degrees. And down the back here we've got something else too. Let's come back a bit out. But it's one of these big resistors. It's about 50 degrees. On this side, nothing really showing up too badly there. There's one part there showing up. Not too bad though, it's about 40 degrees. So what's that over there now? 62 degrees. Getting pretty warm. But the resistor I just replaced isn't even featuring. So that's fine. That means that it's not burning out. So I've got it multi-tracking as you can see, but so 63 degrees now. I think I need to figure out which one that is. Well, it might be a resistor actually. Is a resistor really close to where it's saying? Yeah, it's a resistor. Okay. Yep, it's carbon resistor. That big one just there, that's what it's picking up. So again, because I'm too close to it. So at least the one I've just fixed is looking alright. Let's do some tests and see if it's actually behaving properly. Right, let's give this thing a try out. So 10 volt range, currently everything's set at 0. Output is on. 1 volt, not too bad. Let's increase the resolution. Obviously it's not going to be accurate because it's all just turned on. 3 volts, yep. 4, slightly off there. 5, but it could be calibration issues on this rather than the actual calibrator. So I'm going to check this, the decades, that's it, so 10 volts, yep, all those decades are working. 100 volt range, so we've got 10 volts, that's fine. Up to 100 volts, that's looking alright. 1000 volt range, this will be the tell. If the 600 volt plays up again, I thought I'd fix that, but the question is 300 volts correct now? That's the question. So 100, 200 is looking good. 300, oh look at that, it's fixed. 300 is working. 400, 500. Looking for any instability. 600 is looking good. 700 is looking alright. Oh, this looks promising. That's looking pretty good there. If I change the count rate back, see if I see anything fluctuating. May not do. So 600 was the one I had played up last time. That's looking okay. Back down to 300 again. Yes. So 320. That's working. Excellent. So this problem I had with the 300 volt range is now fixed. This has been bugging me for ages. Sweet. Excellent. So I'm probably have to go through and do a recalibration on this thing again, based against my best references. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I'm happy that in fact it's actually working now. Obviously got no covers on it and that really affects things as well. So I think that's a win. Make sure you subscribe, click the bell icon, subscribe for new videos, watch my playlist. I've got a playlist on this device. This will be another video in that playlist. thumbs up if you like the video. If you like repairs, then make sure you follow my channel, definitely important. Check out my merch down below as well. You can buy cups and shirts and socks and all sorts of weird things, just in case you're interested. Well, I'm happy about that. One more little bug solved. Catch you later.